You're listening to the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're wanting to increase your fitness for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you want to have a rough and tumble start training Jiu-Jitsu, I'd like to welcome Andy Harris to my podcast. Hi Andy, how are you?
Hey, I'm okay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you. I know you train down at Checkmat in Plymouth. I hold Plymouth very dear to my heart, having studied down there at university for 4 years back in the late 90s, which makes me incredibly old. But we are here. So, Andy, tell me what rank you are and how often you train.
Sure, yep. I am a brown belt under Ian Harrop, who is the head coach at Checkmat Plymouth. How often do I train? So I'm on the mats nearly every day, apart from Sunday. But when I use training, so that will involve maybe one-to-one teaching full classes, or going to a class or sparring. So I'm doing one of them every day. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love hearing the dedication of jiu-jitsu practitioners that literally it's their life and their passion, and actually living out your dream of progressing through the ranks and adding additional hours on the mat. I often think of it like pilots. You're just adding mat hours or air time or whatever it is, flight hours, onto your kind of life, which is incredible. Having said that, how many hours do you reckon that you've accumulated over the years, Andy?
I couldn't honestly tell you. I mean, when I first started, when I was a white belt, I was in a very privileged position. The work that I was doing was shift work, and we were able to choose a shift time throughout the day. So there was X amount of hours that you had to work. And I was probably, and this is like no word of a lie, I was probably, in the first 6 months, I was probably training 22 hours a week at least.
That's incredible. Now, I'm sure there are lots of white belts out there listening that, or even when you were a white belt, you invested as much time as you possibly could.
Absolutely.
But like you say, that's a very privileged position to be in, to be able to dedicate that many hours, because I know when any of us start training this particular art, we want to invest, we want to learn, our energy is really high. And enthusiasm is incredible. So tell me a bit about those 22 hours and how you progressed, some of the challenges you had. What was going on?
So it didn't necessarily start out that I wanted to do that. I didn't look at it and go, right, I need to put as much time in as possible. It just happened. I think that's one of the things about jiu-jitsu, is that if you invest yourself in it and you actually look at it for what it is, I think you can get engrossed in it so quickly. And it's, one thing leads to another thing that leads to another thing that leads to another thing. And if you've got a brain that just wants to learn it, then you will go and learn it, and you will try to get better and better. And that doesn't work. And that's essentially what happened with me. It was a bit of a rabbit hole that I kind of like put my head in, and it just carried on going like Alice in Wonderland. And I was just like, I need to do this. I think it also boils down to one of my old coaches, a gentleman called Ryan Honeyman, who I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but if he does, huge kind of props to him, because he was a brown belt at the time, and I knew him before I knew he did jiu-jitsu. So I knew of him outside of the world of jiu-jitsu. But the day he was the one who got me onto the mats, pure luck, which I'm sure we'll talk about another point today. But I asked him for one-to-ones, and I said, would you be willing to for one-to-ones? I've always been quite hungry in anything that I've done. So I looked at the classes, I looked at my schedule, I want to get good at this.
Yeah.
And Ryan was very, very talented, or is very talented. He's a black belt now. And he spoke to me and said, yeah, sure, like let's get some one-to-ones on the go. And he really started to open up my mind to what jiu-jitsu was and broke it down into segments. And I think I
Yeah.
really kind of pride myself on my coaching and my approach to coaching. And Ryan definitely helped me with that. And he essentially said to me, right, top game or bottom game? You know, I don't want to teach you both. I want to teach you one. What do you think you're going to do? And I just
Yeah.
looked at him. I've just learned how to tie my belt. I don't know what I want to do. And he said, right, well, let's just have a move around. And he kind of felt quite quickly that I was possibly a bit passive, and I
Yeah.
kind of was more kind of like, oh, I feel more comfortable on my back rather than that kind of grab and hold and wrestle and things like that, because I
Yeah.
had no background to that at all. And I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. It just felt natural to grab, fall to the floor, and then fight off my back. And he said,
Yeah.
right, okay, just going on those few minutes, I think we'll concentrate on you off your back. And then next session, we'll concentrate on your feet, and then we'll see where you are. Because I
Yeah.
didn't want to work on both. I wanted to be good at one, really good at one first, and then
Yeah.
concentrate on the other. And that's how it happened. And I became a guard player, and it became my favorite thing. So that's what I still do today. So yeah, that's how it happened.
I think your story will resonate with many in terms of being a guard player, being able to identify your strengths in terms of whether you're a kind of play the bottom or the top. And it's quite interesting. I feel like a number of us get stuck on the bottom, and we're working for ways to get out. We'd love to do the takedowns. We'd love to be on top most of the time, but actually, in reality, we are not.
Exactly.
And I know I was training. I attended a couple of open mats at the weekend, and I did happen to be much more on the top, and it felt really, really empowering. But I've been training for nearly 2 years, and that was probably the first time over two open mats on a weekend where I've actually been anywhere close to not being on the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a good place to be. But having that one-to-one coaching to start with is just an incredible opportunity. Would you recommend anyone to kind of go out and have that approach when they first
Um,
start?
if if people have the time, if people have the opportunity, and obviously at times one-to-ones cost, because
Yeah.
sometimes people are buying, giving up their time. If
Yeah.
you're lucky enough to have a coach who's willing to give you free time, then take it with open arms.
Yeah.
But if which in my experience, most one-to-ones cost to
Yes.
whatever degree of hourly rate, because it's a job for people.
And we're all worth something, so I think we have to,
Absolutely. I
there's
do a
that
lot of
there.
one-to-ones now, and I think that, yeah, I do believe. I think if you can get a coach that's got the experience, and has got the knowledge and has got the ability to help you and
Yeah.
shape your game, then definitely. I think in general, and I guess that comes from kind of experience of my own, coaching people in a
Yeah.
different levels of sport, not just jiu-jitsu, but I've been coaching for a long time in different sports. And I've always felt that one-to-one or small group instructing is
Yeah.
probably a little bit better than large group instructing, just purely because you get the focus from the coach about what you want to improve on rather than a
Yeah.
generic
Yeah.
class. So
Now,
absolutely, opportunity, go for it.
what I'm thinking, when we first start out, we don't know necessarily what we want. Sometimes we come to martial arts with not having any experience of martial arts whatsoever, and
Sure.
we don't know what we don't know. So, how would you recommend someone going about trying to find what they don't know to be able to ask for help in a specific area?
Yeah. So are we referring to like a certain area of jiu-jitsu position, or just
Yes, but anything in general, how would one go about identifying their kind of, not so strong areas of their game?
personally? I teach a lot of one-to-ones, and I teach quite a few classes at Checkmat, and I do get that question quite a lot. one of the things that I ask people to do. So this is just me personally. I've written my own syllabuses for
Yeah.
certain positions that I believe are very, very important at a fundamental level.
Yeah.
And those are something that I teach. There's a platform I like to bring in at the end of the kind of coaching time. I like to do like a test to say, right, okay, we're now going to pressure test the work that we've done, and I'm going to ask you to get into these positions, and I'm just going to take side control, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah.
But one thing that some of the slightly higher belts will say to me is, I really want to work on this. I really want to work on that. Because a lot of the guys that I coach are white belts in my one-to-ones, and I've got a couple of blue belts, and I've had a couple of purple belts. But it's majority of white belts and a couple of blue belts. And the blue belts come to me at the moment, they come to me now with a specific goal. So, for example, they've been rolling and they've left open mat, and they've just thought, you know what, I'm constantly finding myself in half guard. I really like half guard, but things that I'm doing aren't quite working. Or I normally do this pass and this pass isn't working. So we'll dissect it. I'll ask them to do that on me. And in no way, shape, or form do I know everything, but I know enough that I feel will help people to a certain level. And I will never teach something that I don't know. I'll never teach something that I'm not very good at. Like, I'm not particularly good at leg attacks. There's a bit of an ongoing joke in our gym about me disliking leg attacks. And that's purely because I'm not the best at them. So I just say I don't like them. But I'm learning. But I wouldn't teach that. So if somebody was to come to me and say, Andy, I really want to get good at escaping heel hooks, I know how to escape a heel hook to a certain point, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going, okay, give me an hourly rate for me to teach you how to get out of leg locks, because I wouldn't be giving them their money's worth. I would say, no, you need to go and speak to so-and-so if you want to get good at that. But if you want to come and understand a couple of passes from half guard, sure, let's go for it, you know?
Okay, so what is your favourite move or position to be able to get to a submission?
So my preferred approach would be, and I hope none of my future opponents watch this, is I like to take grips. I love to pull guard, a good solid kind of collar grip and foot into the hip, tripod sweep, come up off the tripod sweep and look to pass guard very quickly that way, mount, back, choke. Bow and arrow choke's my favorite choke in the gi. And props to a gentleman down here in Plymouth called Danny McMillan, who massively helped me sharpen my game with my tripod sweeps. His knowledge is unbelievable. He's linked to a different gym. I went to see him for that, and his help and knowledge was amazing. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, incredible. I think, we all have a sequence in mind. Certainly when you were describing that sequence there, I was like, okay, yep, that, there.
Yeah.
And I can kind of, get the feel for it.
Sure.
I just wish in real life it was that quick.
Yeah, and you know what? The tripod sweep is something that, although Danny helped me massively sharpen the approach to that, it was something that I knew. You'd expected to know that early doors. In my opinion, it's one of the more fundamental sweeps from guard, and it is one of the very first sweeps. I go back to the gentleman Ryan who helped me in the early stages. It was one of the first sweeps off my back that Ryan taught me. Yeah. So I knew it, I understood it. Danny helped me sharpen it into more of an attack. But the tripod sweep is one of my favorite sweeps. It would be my number one go-to sweep always. And what I've learned is additional sweeps off of that. So one sweep leads to another sweep, leads to another sweep, leads to another sweep, attack, chaining those attacks together. Yeah. But that takes time and patience,
This is the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Go and check out the latest video clips over on ju.jitsu.lu on Instagram. And as you're listening or watching on your favourite podcast platform, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Do you own a martial arts school or gym? How would you like to feature on my new show, Double Mic Takedown Podcast, where you have the opportunity to talk with passion and integrity. You'll be joined by fellow gym owners, reaching a whole new audience in the UK and around the world. Take this opportunity to join the community by visiting voxiferistudios.com, VOXIFERI studios.com. Today, I'm having a conversation with Andy Harris. Andy, thank you for sharing your favourite kind of move and position. I'd like to know a bit about your life before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and what made you start training.
Yeah, sure. So I'll make it short and sweet. So I used to play football. So football was like my passion growing up. I played it since I was 4 years old. I was fortunate enough to sign a contract when I was in school for Plymouth Argyle. Unfortunately, I got to my mid-teens and it didn't quite work. So that was the end of that. I then started playing like local football with local teams, men's teams, when I was sort of like 16, 17, which was fun. And then I started playing semi-professional football when I was about 19. So a team approached me playing in the local Sunday league and said, would you like to earn a couple of quid on a Saturday playing football?
Yeah, nice.
And that's how it happened. So I played football, a coaching degree. So I went to university at Marjohn's here in Plymouth. College of St. Mark and St. John, sports science and coaching degree, followed up by sports psychology, and then went into child psychology. So a lot of coaching experience all the way through school, college, and university, and I've taken it on, into adulthood. And then when I was in my 20s, I got injured quite badly in football, and I was unable to play for probably about 6 to 7 months. And when I was getting back to full fitness, it was hard, to trying to go to the level that I was still playing at to earn some half decent money at the weekend. It was tough. So my friend was at a boxing gym. So he said, do you want to come boxing just for fitness? So I did. I must have an extremely addictive personality, as everybody says. So I then threw myself into that. I joined a running club. Threw myself into that. And what I've done at every kind of part, football, I ended up being the assistant manager of my final team, and then I was player manager for that team. Boxing, I ended up being like a pad coach. Running, I ended up being a running club leader. And then I went down to a local gym to carry on boxing, different gym, and it was a mixed martial arts gym. And I turned up one day to box, and the boxing had been cancelled, and I didn't know anything about it. And Ryan, who I've previously mentioned, he knew me of old, and he came over, tied up his brown belt, and said, I thought I recognised that voice. Why don't you jump on the mats? And I looked over, and they're shrimping and they're roly-polying, and I was like, I don't think that's for me, actually. And he said, well, boxing, because let's be honest, jiu-jitsu looks a little bit weird if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said, look, buddy, you got your shorts, you got your t-shirt on, jump on the mats. I've got another new guy that's just started. You're here, boxing's cancelled. It's either go home and do nothing or do something. And I just said, yeah, all right, why not? And that was sort of coming up 8 years ago. And
amazing.
I'm here now. So
that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that kind of quick plotted history. I think some of us kind of end up in sports careers prior to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and launching into starting training because it's just there. And sometimes we're invited to start training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's no time to think. You've got no idea what it is. It does look a bit strange and unusual. People kind of, arm barring each other or, choking and all of those things. And it doesn't look very friendly, but actually starting training and seeing and experiencing the community around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really important. Tell me about your experience in the clubs and kind of gyms that you've trained at.
Yeah, sure. So in Plymouth, I've trained in 3 gyms, but one is kind of like part-time where I would just go on a Saturday and I would do some one-to-ones with I mentioned an instructor, a very, very high-level instructor here in Plymouth. He's, friends with a lot of the high level guys. I'm not going to start name dropping, but he
Yeah.
goes and trains with a lot of the good guys that you will definitely know. And my main clubs, I trained at one, and then I moved across to the one I'm at now, Checkmat, which was it was just after COVID. I joined Checkmat, just after COVID. Both gyms really good, amazing coaches, amazing people. But I moved over for certain reasons, and it's great. We've got Ian Harrop, Ricky Bellingham, Amy. I want to call her Harrop, but she's not Harrop anymore, and I can't remember her name, so I do apologise. But they're the three kind of head coaches, black belts.
Yeah.
Ricky Bellingham is like very busy on the scene. He's one of the heads of the Army camps, so he's been a sponsored athlete with the Army for many years now, and he's a sponsored athlete at the moment, so he's high level guy, So we're lucky. Our club's amazing. It's got some really good, talented people.
Yeah.
And
so tell me about the community around the club and how it might have supported your journey, because I know for some of us, we keep showing up week in, week out, or day in, day out, because of the people around us, that it makes it such a nice experience.
Oh, absolutely. I think a positive club ethos wherever you go has to be paramount, because ultimately, certainly at the end of the day, I believe in this strongly. White belts and blue belts in particular, they're your bread and butter for any level of club, right? From a jiu-jitsu perspective, because they're the ones that are going to keep coming back week in, week out. They're the ones that are hungry for those promotions. Those are the ones that are hungry for stripes. And not to say that the purple belts and above aren't, but you've earned your stripes at that point. You've got a game. You're creating a game, and there's that huge kind of saying about the dropouts at blue belt. And you get your blue belt, and then all of a sudden you don't see the lad you were training with for 2 years. It's just disappeared off the face of the earth. And I think there's a bit of a joke about that, right? But I think ultimately that they will come back, and if they want to come back, if life doesn't get in the way, they'll come back because they enjoy the club, they enjoy the people, they enjoy the ethos. And it's very, 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 very important, because it's a community. You're there, you're fighting, you're rolling around, you're trying to choke each other and, not hurt each other, but you're trying to put your will on people. And, if you didn't do it with a smile on your face, then you wouldn't come back. And people do. People come back. People love it. Yeah. And I think certainly here in Plymouth, we've got a good community, not just at our club, but across the city. We're all linking together now. We do lots of inter-clubs. So we've got about six jiu-jitsu gyms, and they're all inter-clubbing. We're doing all the white belt, blue belt things. I'm starting a competition with the Jiu-Jitsu League. It's booming down here in the Southwest. It's great to see.
Amazing. Now, tell me about your coaching experience. You've been a coach in many different types of sports, and now you coach in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, being a brown belt. You coach kids classes or adult classes?
I used to. So it's adults now, but I used to coach the children's classes. So it was a mixture. It was adults, and I've been coaching since I was sort of like mid to high blue belt. And that was initially just to support the coach in the class, and then it became kind of like a 6 a.m. class where they were like, Andy, would you like to take a fundamental class, just work on movement drills, just work on escapes and things like that. And these are things that I'd been doing for quite a long time. I was promoted to blue belt after 6 months. Wow. So the time on the mat definitely helped me. And the children's class was alongside that, but we changed the timetable. So unfortunately, I couldn't continue to do the kids class. So I just teach the adults now in jiu-jitsu, yeah.
And what's the best thing as a coach that you experience or see or kind of demonstrate within your coaching classes?
I think it's seeing the progression of the people. That's really important to me. If you're really working, I work hard behind the scenes, writing syllabuses, writing up notes at the end of the class, looking at who's turning up week in, week out. And I know sometimes life gets in the way, and I completely understand that. But ultimately, if you turn up more than the person next to you, you're going to improve faster. And we have a good retention, which is great. It's the same faces in my in my classes on a Tuesday evening and a Wednesday morning. And I just love seeing the improvement that they're making, and also like the excitement when something works, it's like, oh my God, like I've just been taught that and it worked, and it's you can see the light bulb go off in their head and they're just like, it worked. And it's like, it will work, it will work, be patient. It's not going to work every time, but the more you do it, the more it will become natural. So that's
now,
the best for me.
Thank you. Do you have, as a coach, do you have experience of competition and kind of, moving forwards and being a role model for your students and other people in the club?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a lot of experience. I started my first tournament after about a month or two of actually doing jiu-jitsu. So my first ever competition, funny story. So I'm a big believer, and I preach this to a lot of the people that I work with and talk to, that, you go in with a game plan, work on something that you're good at, look at your strengths. Don't worry about the things you don't know, because there's so much. You're going to be there for a lifetime. Just do the things that you're good at. So if you're going to pull guard, pull guard. If you're going to sweep, sweep. Come up on top, play off that. If you know an attack, go for an attack. If it doesn't work, just stay safe. And kind of repeat that and really work on like an A game. And I had done that. So go back to Ryan, who would help me. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. First fight, turn up in the gi, guy grabs me, ego takes over, and I just like, what you doing? Don't grab me. And we just start doing this. And none of us know what to do. We're pretending we know what to do. We're pretending we're going to throw them like a judo expert, but I haven't got a clue. Bearing in mind, for 2 months prior, all I've done is pull guard and done a tripod sweep. But my ego took over, and I was like, don't you dare grab me. I'm going to grab you. For about 3 minutes, we were just doing this. And I didn't do anything that I said I would do. Guess what? Threw me on the floor, got me in a head and arm triangle, tapped out. So all that preparation I'd done, and I was like feeling really good, and my sparring was going well in the club, it all went out the window at my very first ever tournament because my ego took over. So
you're just reminding me actually of my first competition. I'd registered for a few, but I went out to Barcelona in May and took part in my first competition at IBJJF Masters, which I'm struggling to find competitors. However, getting the grips. Actually, it felt like we were in stalemate for ages, and because it was an IBJJF, we were not disqualified, but there were kind of negative points put against both of us because we weren't progressing the match. So the 3 minutes in that sense felt like an incredible amount of time for you, but I felt like we were reset like 2 or 3 times, and then I just ended up pulling guard because it's like I just want to move this game on. But it's really interesting when you say about kind of the ego takes over. I hadn't really thought about it like that, because you're like, well, I'm doing this and you're not going to do that, and I'll do this, you're not going to do that. But then nothing happens. So, I just wanted to kind of chip in with that bit, because there was something that happened for me, and maybe other people that are listening or watching as well.
That would be the biggest bit of advice I could give to anybody who is listening, who's thinking about competing or who does compete, is if you've trained for your game, play your game. There's a difference if you play your game and someone shuts it down. That you have to counter their counter. That's jiu-jitsu. Nobody's going to let you do something. You might be good enough to get away with it, and that's great. But ultimately, that's the game. But don't go worrying about what they're going to do. And that's what I think I did for my first tournament. As soon as he grabbed me, my ego took over. But also, I was like, well, what's he going to do? He's going to throw me. Oh, my God, he's going to try and throw me. I need to stop this. But actually, if I had just played my game, and luckily I was able to fight in the no-gi later on in the day, and I played my game and I won. Good. So I managed to get gold. I lost embarrassingly in my first ever fight, and I was like, no, I need to do what I've trained. And then I managed to get the win in the no-gi. I had 2 fights in the afternoon, and luckily I won them. But that's because I focused and I played the game that I had practiced, and luckily it worked. I've had plenty of times when I've been in competition, I've tried to play my game and it's lost. Yeah, that's jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah. So tell me about some of your recent competitions, and how your game has changed since that very first kind of. Was it a white
Yeah,
belt or a blue belt
it,
match?
it was white belt. It was
Yep.
2 months in. And yeah, so from that point, I probably entered every month. And thankfully, I won them all. In the gi and no gi. Got promoted after 6 months, 7 months. And then I went to blue belt competitions. I went to America at blue belt to train. So we
Amazing.
trained a group of us. Yeah, it was really cool. Went to New York. We trained with Marcelo Garcia and his extremely high level team. And we trained with Henzo Gracie and John Danaher. The deaf squad at the time were like really big. George St. Pierre was upstairs training, which was really cool. We weren't allowed anywhere near him, but we saw him go upstairs.
Yeah.
And, Gordon Ryan, Nicky Ryan, yeah, they were there training, which is really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. They didn't train with us. They were on the mats, but they were kind of like in
Yeah.
their own little bit.
I,
But,
I think it's really lovely to actually see and experience, and even if you don't get a chance to kind of roll with these individuals, but to
yeah.
see how they're operating on a
Oh, yeah.
non-competition basis,
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
and just, it
I
is
think when we turned
completely,
up, Nicky Ryan was asleep on the mats with a pillow. With his lunchbox next to him. I was just like, what is going on? This is a young lad, but they live and breathed it, and that's why they're level that
yeah,
they are.
amazing.
But no, it was really cool. We learned a lot of things. And just to get the opportunity to be there and watch these high level guys train,
Yeah,
I was still new, sort of 8 months into it, like a little puppy,
wow.
really. I still am. And yeah, but how I've improved. So I've done a lot of tournaments since. So I've fought in two
Yep.
of the European Championships, one in Lisbon, one in Paris. Blue belt, I lost in the semi-finals. I won my first two, got a bye. Luckily, the guy got injured, and then I went to the semis and lost on points to a gentleman who put me in worm guard for the first time that I've ever experienced that. That was weird. I was just like, what is going on? Like, so that was cool. Really good learning experience. Went back to my coach and was just like, he put me in this guard. Like, you've got to show me how to get out of it.
Yeah.
That helped
We're all
me.
we're all going to be googling worm guard now. I've never heard of
Oh,
that before.
just honestly, he ripped my lapel out, whipped it round my leg, and I was, what's going on? Fell to the floor, and yeah, so I lost on points to him, and
Yeah.
then I fought at purple belt in the Europeans. I lost in the quarterfinals. There, had won the first two, and then I lost in the quarters on by a takedown right at the end. So that really kind of annoyed me.
Yeah.
But no, that was really good experience again. And then I fought in a lot of like submission only fights. I fought in a lot of like tournaments, all BJJ All Stars,
Yeah.
Pro Grappling, things like that. So I've been fortunate. I've won a lot more than I've lost,
Yeah.
which I really work hard when I know I'm going to compete. But I would say probably from purple belt onwards, I've definitely slowed down my competition stuff now, and that's purely down to the fact that I'm at a point where if I'm going to do it again, like compete more again, then I want to
Yeah.
compete and win something good.
Yeah.
Now, I don't feel that I have to constantly, go and do the Newquay Open or go to Cardiff or the Bristol
Yeah.
Open or anything like that. I don't want to do that anymore. And also, to be
Yeah.
honest, I'm 40 years old now. I have no problem with fighting an adult, but if I'm going to do that, I want to fight at a good tournament.
Yeah.
And so, Masters or adult, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. But I'm going to be fighting at the AJP Tour in London in April in the gi.
Fantastic.
And that's my big one. Like, I really want to. I set a
Yeah.
stall out. I want to do two no gi submission only fights at brown belt, which I've now
Yeah.
done. Won one, lost one, and now I want to fight in the gi. Gi is my favorite. I
Okay.
prefer the gi hands
Good.
down to the gi. And I want to fight at AJP Tour. Well, I will be fighting AJP Tour in London in the gi, and I really want to win that. That's my aim, to win a good tournament at brown belt. So yeah.
Amazing. So tell me what tips and techniques, being a strength and conditioning coach and PT, are you going to be supporting yourself with to get to that place?
So yeah, I think one thing that's important here is that having the knowledge and the understanding. I train, most days, like I've said, if not all the time, for jiu-jitsu. And when I'm training jiu-jitsu, it's not full on every single day. I think that's the biggest learning curve people need to understand. You do not need to kill yourself on the mats every day. You don't need to do that. The longevity of your time will not work. You're going to break bones. You're going to have bad knees, bad elbows, bad fingers. It's not going to like it. So choose your time wisely. When it comes to the gym, strength is very important in strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu. It's very important. Yeah. And if people are neglecting that, then the difference between not doing it and doing it is massive.
Yeah.
Doing it will really help you. So I'll approach it the way that I do. So I'll probably start like a training camp around January time, give me 4 months to set myself. Yeah. The first 8 weeks, 2 months will be just priming myself, getting myself ready, just regaining. I like to keep myself ticking over all the time. Yeah. I'm not just going to do anything and then start. So I'll still be training in the gym. I'll still be doing my conditioning, my rowing, my ski ergs, my spin bikes. But then when it comes to the 8 weeks, I'll go back to a gentleman called Joe Simpson, who is a very, very good coach here in the Southwest. I train with him or coach with him down in our gym that we train in and coaching, and then he'll coach me. So he'll put me in a program and we'll go for a strength and conditioning through him, because I believe every coach should have a coach, just the same as I go to my coach. And I think if you have the time and the effort and to do it, then the reason being is it's sometimes difficult for anybody just to go to the gym and have the motivation to do it. Yeah. And also to have the know. So sometimes I might be doing a workout, maybe I'm doing squats and I'm meant to be resting for 2-3 minutes, but I'll rest for 5-6 minutes because I'm talking to my mate or seeing something or I'm looking at my phone. But when I'm with a coach, they don't give you that opportunity. They're like, no, let's get on, right? Your time's up, get doing the squats. Oh, no, that's too heavy for me today. No, it's not, do it. So that's just me. I like the fact that I'm going to be dictated to. I'm going to be told what to do. And they've got my best interests at heart in order to get me in the best strength and best shape for that tournament. Could I do it on my own? Do I have the knowledge? Yes. Would I do it? Probably not. Because I'll just be lazy one day, or I'll be tired, or I won't push myself to the level that I probably could do on that day. So, like I said at the start, if you have an opportunity to train with someone, you should do it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the conversation I had with Corey Kent, where he ultimately prepares for every single competition or invitation or whatever, because it's the respect that you... the mindset of respect and kind of owing it to yourself and your opponent when you're on the mats in competition. If you don't do yourself the service of training and conditioning yourself to be there, then, I found that a really lovely mindset, because I know some 100%. Of us, make the excuses. We don't have the time or the capacity, but actually there's an element of deep respect in preparing yourself to do the very best at competition.
Absolutely, it is, and I think what Corey said is absolutely true. It's not just about you; it's about them. Yeah, and you do need to respect that. And I can be very honest and say that the European Championships in purple belt, I didn't prepare myself the way that I should have, and that's down to the fact that I probably disrespected who I was about to fight in that tournament, because I felt that my jiu-jitsu was good enough that it would take me as far as it needed to. Did I think I was going to win it? No. Did I think I stood a chance? Yeah, because I want to go in and try to do my best. But if I was fitter and stronger, then I would have given myself a much better chance, but I didn't. And that's on me.
Yeah, I think it's very much about giving ourselves the chance and the opportunity to do the best we can in any circumstance, to make those decisions, to move ourselves 100%. Forwards, rather than just go with the flow. And it sounds like you've got so much dedication to the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I love the fact that you say you love fighting in the gi. I know a lot of us do. It's always good to have more fellow gi and guard players on the scene.
It's definitely my favourite, 100%. Yeah.
Andy, how can people follow your journey and find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so my Instagram is harris.a.bjj_fitness. Okay, so just harris.a, it should come up. with BJJ in there. Yeah, please just have a look. Feel free. I've just started like a little YouTube channel as well. So Andy Harris on YouTube. There's things about there like a new league that we're starting down here that I'm kind of heading up, which would be really cool. It's a submission based league. So yeah, just have a look. Feel free.
Fantastic. Andy, thank you so much for joining me. I've loved hearing about your story, especially from my old university town. And I love the fact that the southwest of England are flying the flag for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the UK and around the world.
Yeah, doing amazing. Honestly, it's really, really good. Anybody ever wants to come down and train with us at Checkmat Plymouth, more than welcome. Always got open door policy for everybody. So yeah, thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Andy.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about the show. And as soon as this episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Thanks again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast.